I'm now recording this. Okay, so as always, I really want you guys to ask me questions. If you have anything to ask me, ask me. Use the chat box for that. Today, I want to talk about what to take on test day, what to expect from the exam, how to do the multiple choice, how to do the FRQs, some general strategies, what to do on test day itself, and then once we're all done, I think I'll stop the recording and leave you a chance to just ask me questions if there's something you want to ask me. I guess I'm just going to get to it unless there's something else. Does somebody want to ask me something before I start? Use the chat if you want to ask me something before I start. Here goes. You may want to take a screenshot of this. This is your packing list on Monday afternoon. Put it all in a shoulder bag or whatever, get it ready to go. Oh, I forgot to add a calculator in here. Oh, crap. Plus a calculator. Calculator. Sloppy on my part. Sorry about that. Add a calculator to this list. If you need a couple of pencils, make sure that they're sharpened, 1 or 2 pens, black or blue. I like the really fancy artist erasers. I think I've shown them to you during class. I thought I had an example here in my man cave, but I guess I don't. I assume you all know what I mean when I say a fancy artist eraser. They're like the white ones that often have like a blue cardboard wrapper. Those work really well. When you erase on their Scantrons, they don't smudge. Some of you have noticed that if you smudge a Scantron, it can misread. I'll get to that. I'll get to that question. So fancy erasers won't smudge. You'll need a clear water bottle with no label. Some years the proctors are more persnickety than others, but that is the actual standard set by the College Board. It has to be clear with no labels. If there's a place for you to write yourself notes, like on the bottom or I don't know, whatever, then you're not allowed to take it. Clear water bottle, no label, you're allowed to have it at your desk. I recommend you have some kind of snack for the break. And technically, I recommend fruit, something with natural sugars. Keeps your energy pretty good. I forgot to put it on this screen. Calculator. That's what to take. Are there any questions what to take? Next, here's your test. You got 80 multiple choice questions that'll give you 90 minutes. This is slightly longer per question than I've given you in my class, but it'll feel about the same pressure as my class. For one thing, with a whole block of questions, you're more likely to get stumped and lose time. For another thing, one half of the questions are what you're used to from my course, but one half of the questions are what we call question sets, where there will be like a big thing at the top and then 2 or 3 or 4 multiple choice questions based on that big thing. And sometimes if it's like 4 paragraphs of reading, that's why the pace feels a little bit more relaxed, but you'll actually feel about as rushed as normal. There's going to be a couple of like graph or data table or chart with some questions about it. There's a couple like demographic transition or diagram of a power plant or dissolved oxygen in zones of a river. where like they'll talk about a system. They call them systems questions. And then there's going to be a couple that are just like reading. Honestly, if you had to skip something, the ones with a lot of reading are probably your best choice of something to skip. Like if you were going to run out of time, do those last. After you do the multiple choice, you'll get a break. They say it's 15 minutes, but I don't know, man. Like the bathroom situation's pretty rough, and this is a big exam, so I don't know how that's going to work out. During that break, if you look around, you'll probably find someone having an anxiety attack. Don't let that become your situation. You got to try to stay calm during that break. You don't need to get that many right. Everybody's all stressed out. Oh my God, I didn't know 3 of them. Like, you're not going to know a whole bunch of them, and who cares? Like, if you got like 50, 60%, you passed. Easy. So don't stress out. Tell yourself you're doing well. Even if you got like a 40%, you might still be able to make up for it with a good free response question. Just one really good free response question, and you can make up for doing bad in the multiple choice. So don't get discouraged because stress will mess up your brain. Stay calm during the break. Then you'll have 3 FRQs. Those 3 FRQs go over 70 minutes, which is 22.33. Exactly what you've done in my class every time. Same pace that you're used to. There's one question where you design an investigation, either an observational exam or a controlled experiment. Sorry, an observational experiment or a controlled experiment about some specific scenario. They'll be like, poison in the river, see if the fish are dying because of the poison. So you could do an experiment of adding more poison, for example, or you could measure fish mortality closer to the poison source, for example. There will be some sort of problem and solution based on math and some sort of problem and solution not based on math. They are all A, B, C, D broken up like you're used to in my class. Most of them will be like A, B, B1, B2, B3, C1, C2. It'll look pretty familiar. It'll look a lot like what you're used to. After 70 minutes, you wipe up the tears and pull your pants back up and get out of there and give everybody high fives, and then it's over. You should be done somewhere in the ballpark of like 11:45, 12:15, something like that. So you can come find me in my room, tell me all about it. They're going to tell you don't talk to your teacher. I'm not going to pick your brain about exactly very specific things, and I'm not going to cheat anyway. So just come tell your teacher. I really want to hear how it went. It's better when it's fresh. Come see me after the exam. Are there any questions about what to expect? Okay. For the multiple choice questions, I gotta tell you, a lot of this stuff is strategy that you've probably already heard if you pay for SAT prep or ACT prep, but I still want to go over that. One thing that I have to tell you, there's going to be a lot of stuff you don't know. It always happens. It's not about you. Like if I take the exam, there's going to be at least 2 or 3 things I don't know. And I've been doing this for like more than 20 years. For my students, I always tell them 10 questions you don't know, I'm not surprised. And that's not bad. And you could still get a 5. So who cares? There's going to be a handful of words you don't know. That's unavoidable. I'm sure that would happen to me. Try to use context clues, do your best. There is going to be stuff you don't know. And I just want you to expect that so it doesn't freak you out. One thing is some of the questions, they don't even grade. Like they're analyzing a question. So they want to know if a question has a good correlation with students based on their scores. So do the students get it mostly right who have a 5, and like, do the students with a 1 mostly get it wrong, or is this question not correlated to scores? So they trial about 3 or 4 questions every exam. They'll never grade them. If it looks weird, maybe that's why. There's also some stuff that you don't know because you live here. Now, you probably live in the best town. Um, Being in Santa Barbara, honestly, like, you have a leg up on the entire country. Legally, regionally, um, the weird little microbiome that we live in with our harbor and our water quality issues and our impacts from climate change and our fire history. I mean, you live in the best town, but there might be a question about Florida on there. I don't know. This is worse for a lot of other students. You've grown up in a place that has a lot of nature. Since you were a little kid, you've probably heard stuff about birds and stuff that maybe somebody in Cincinnati doesn't get to hear about. But who knows? You might get a couple questions you don't know because of regional issues, and if that happens, don't worry. You've got an upper hand on the rest of the country. There's gonna be stuff that I never taught you. Like, if you're a term 3-4 student, I never taught you atmosphere stuff, so hopefully you pick that up on your own. But there is going to be stuff I never taught you. Even if you're a term 1-2 student and I finish the book, I can't cover everything. That's just guaranteed to happen. It's an impossibly large class. No teacher teaches everything. There might be stuff that I taught you that you just didn't learn. Maybe you were having a bad day. Maybe you were absent. Maybe you had COVID. I don't know. And I just need everybody to, like, relax. When this happens, that's cool. It's fine. The average multiple choice score for students who get a 3 is right around 48 to 52%. So, like, do your best, get as many right as you can, but don't stress out if you don't know things. I'd like you to do the multiple choice exam in 4 passes. I want you to go once through the entire 80 questions and just pick out the ones that you know you can answer right away. Like, oh, I know this one. Do those and bubble them in. If you stay calm and you feel good, you're going to, like, warm up your brain. You're going to be like, yeah, the water stuff's over here, and like, yeah, the ecology's over here, and here's the population stuff. And you're going to just, like, take a little stroll through your memories and find the things that are easy. That's your first pass. Skip everything that you have to think about. I want you to make a second pass where I can probably do it, but I have to read that big passage, or I can probably do it, but I have to crunch the math. They do not organize the multiple choice by any particular topic. So you're just going to take the easy ones, then take the ones that require a little more attention. Then, like, let's imagine you've got 20 minutes left. That's the ones where you're just stumped. Like, look at it, think about it, doodle a little bit, skip to the next one that you're stumped by. Number 37, I really don't know. Number 45, geez, I don't know this math. I'm just going to try something, see if I can come up with one of the answers. I don't know. Number 64, I don't know, man. Maybe I do have to read this entire passage again. And then when you've got like 3 minutes to go, bubble in all the blanks. Don't leave anything blank. I thought that the guess penalty was really smart. I'm a big proponent of the guess penalty. I think the guess penalty is like brilliant mathematics. But hey, apparently it makes my students feel better. There is no more guess penalty. So just wing it. Don't leave anything blank, all 80 of them. Sometimes there will be like 2 or 3 questions that are, or 2 or 3 options that are all correct. Pick the one that's the most correct. And be really, really careful. Multiple choice comes first. As soon as you get like You don't know what writer's block is? Like when a writer is writing something and they reach a point where they just can't create anymore. That happens to testers, like testing block. As soon as you get frazzled and you're like, ah, you can't keep going, like Dunzo. Like when you've allowed that to happen, that's pretty close to not going to do well on this exam. So don't let yourself get stumped. Don't like freak out. Don't start like chewing on your pencil or like punching the chair in front of you or like looking around all anxious and like crying and stuff. Like just take a second and like look up at the ceiling tiles and like relax and like think about the person that you think is most beautiful and like like wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes and like shake it out. Like just let a minute go by and just breathe and stay calm and don't let yourself stress out. Multiple choice comes first. So after you're done with all that, if you haven't gotten yourself stressed out, you can go to the bathroom, you can eat an apple, you can walk around a little bit, and then you start doing the free response in a few minutes. If you do get stressed out and you start to get like the cold shakes and you like throw up in your t-shirt, like it's just like this spiral. Like just don't let that happen. Like if you're starting to stress out, turn the page, look somewhere else, relax, like head game, head game. Anything you want to ask me about how to do the multiple choice section? And I think I answered that question, right? They're not organized by topic. The multiple choice questions are scattered. Um, as a matter of fact, um, if I could just riff on that question that someone asked me, they'll give you like a story about a river and they'll map the river and they'll put pollution sources and they'll measure water quality. So like they'll give you a setup about pollution in a river. And then question A will be about something about measuring the water. And question B will be about the pollution. And question C will be something about aquatic ecology. And the next question might be about birds or about dirt or about mining. And what's weird is like the individual questions kind of flow, but usually that cluster, the set, will include something which is outside the main topic. So if you don't know about the water and you don't know about the pollution, keep looking for the rest of those questions. Okay. As a matter of fact, they're not organized by topic, and quite the contrary. Even if the question is on a single topic, there might be part of the set which is from different topics. Somebody asked me what was the original question back when the original guess penalty, back when they had 5 choices, A, B, C, D, and E. They would take away a quarter of a point if you got it wrong. And it's all about what are the odds of getting it wrong versus the odds of getting it right. So like as long as you can rule out one of the answers and guess from the remaining, your odds are better of getting the full point than they are of losing. I can show you the math sometime. It's really elegant. If you want to nerd out, I'll do the guess penalty math for you, because in university exams like the MCAT and the LCAT and so on, they do still have a guess penalty, and I'll explain why you should still guess every time. Somebody asked me to go over bubbling techniques. Just make a clean bubble with a sharp pencil, and make sure that if you're skipping question number 7, you skip bubble number 7. Some students will, on their question sheet, cross off question 8 if they've answered it, and question 9 if they've answered it, like next to the number, they'll cross off 9. So that when you look at the Scantron, you'll be like, yeah, I have an answer for 9. I finished that one. I didn't cross off 10, so I got to have a blank on 10 on the Scantron. I don't know if that's what you meant by bubbling techniques. Just stay cleanly inside the shape. Your Scantron will have like a little circle, so like you just bubble that. If you have to pee during the exam, I'm pretty sure you have to pee in your pants. Oh, so do a page, then bubble a row. I don't really have a specific thing. Um, so a lot of teachers recommend that on the body of the exam, you question 4, circle B, question 5, circle A. And then once you've done the whole page with 1, 2, 3, 4 answers on the exam, then you would go over and put B, A, C, D on the Scantron. So like 1 page of document and 1 page of Scantron. I've heard compelling arguments both ways. I'm like, you can do you. I'm not really too convinced about this argument, but like if my daughter asks me, I'll tell her to go one at a time. So get 4, bubble 4. Get 5, bubble 5. Can't answer number 6, skip number 6. Do number 7, bubble number 7. One at a time. Does that answer your question in the chat? Okay. Anybody want to ask me anything else about multiple choice? You're going to get 3 free response questions. Do the math one first. Like, no matter who you are, whether you're good at math or bad at math, you're going to take a break for 10, 15 minutes or whatever that is. And then they're going to be like, okay, please take your seats. And then they're going to be like, here's your multiple choice test. Open it, skip around, find the math problem, do that first, like without reading any words. Don't even skim the exam. Just start on math. There's a bunch of reasons. Left brain, right brain is one of them. My favorite reason is that per point you earn, the math questions are the fastest way to pick up points. So there's 3 questions, each graded on 10 points, 30 points. If you have 70 minutes, that gives you like 2.2, 2.3 minutes per point. You can pick up 4 or 5 math points in less than 2.3 minutes per point. Plus, you are coming off like a bathroom break and an apple bite. I think that starting with one side of your brain and then switching to the other side of your brain is probably the healthiest option for you. So do the math part of the math question first. Then finish that question. Then look through the test and like now which one is shorter. Like once you're done with the math question, there's going to be like 2 others. Find the one that's the shortest and do that one. And then if there's one that has more reading or just looks like it's going to take you longer, leave that one for last. If you're going to run out of time, you want to pick up as many points as you can. Math problems first, the rest of the math questions second, the shortest question third, and finally the long question. Everybody runs out of time sooner or later. Just expect it. So, like, if you have to read a big passage to answer A, then do like B, C, D, and E, and then read the passage for A. Whatever takes you the most time, you have to do that last. Outline your answers before you write. Like, look at the question, figure out the action word, figure out the key terms, and then just give it a second. Like, just give it 1 second and just outline. Throw a couple things down. Um, just take a second, outline your answers. You don't have to answer them, the parts, in order, as long as they're labeled. So the question will be here and the answer goes there. And you can start with D, then E, then F, then A, then B, then C, as long as they're labeled. Like A and you circle it, B and you circle it. If you finish answering B and then an hour later you decide to add something to B, just use standard editorial markup. Little arrow around the margins, and then say B continued, colon, and then just keep writing. There's no, like, this isn't about writing. Like, you don't have to write well, you don't have to write a lot. You just have to write like a really rudimentary full sentence. Everything's graded on a 10-point scale. And so there's always 10 things you have to accomplish. Back in the day, there would be like ABC, and you'd have to be like, okay, there's 4 parts in A and 4 parts in B. But now there'll be like A1, A2, A3, A4, B1, B2, B3, B4. So you just do each of those things. And honestly, like one full sentence for each point is like the most you would ever need. You don't need adverbs. You don't need adjectives. Nobody cares how well you explain this. I mean, I got to be really clear about something. You guys understand that the College Board has gotten in trouble for being really biased, right? Like who passes and who doesn't. Remembering that we have a tremendous number of people in the United States for whom English is not the first language, and that this is a science exam, they're not really looking at how well you write at all. It's like specifically against the rules to grade you on grammar. They're just looking like, when we asked for a description, did they describe something? Don't just list it, you have to like describe it. If we asked for I don't know, cost and benefit, did they give a cost and a benefit? I gotta caution you, like, don't say vague stuff like bad for the environment or bad for the earth or like good for humans. Like, that's super vague. That's never the right answer. Because, like, how bad? Like 7, 8 bad? 8.3 bads? Like, there's no way to measure that. So instead, you should always discuss a variable that's explicit, something that you could measure, like the time it takes for something to recover or the total area of forest compared to another area of forest, or like the number of offspring goes up or the number goes down. Try to just say something specific. If you don't remember the word, just describe it. It's not a vocabulary exam. There is never, ever a point tied to a word. The points are tied to a concept. So if you don't remember that it's called LaCroix, that's fine. You would just say like bubbly water that faintly tastes kind of like a little bit fruity. That's fine. You don't have to say the word. There is no vocab term required for this exam. You can get a perfect score without using a single vocabulary term. Those little square papers that you peel off from each other and they have like an adhesive band at the top, everybody knows that's a Post-it, but you can just describe it perfectly fine. The little Apple product that's rectangular and it's like glass on both sides, and you use it to make phone calls and receive messages and to bully people that you used to date. You don't have to call an iPhone. You can just like describe the thing. If you're ever going to use an introduction, if you're ever going to use an abbreviation, you have to introduce it. So you would say Federal Bureau of Investigations, parentheses, FBI. And then from then on, you could say FBI. So you have to introduce it, like do the whole word and then use the abbreviations after. Like if you're talking about water pollution and stuff, or like dissolved oxygen, like it really is nice to just abbreviate. So use the whole word and then explain equate it to an abbreviation. You can use the abbreviation. You'll have to write in pen for this. You don't have to do them in order. If you don't like something, just put a single line through it. You don't have to like erase it from the face of the earth or hide your stupidity. You just put a line through it. It's not a big deal. Just like a line and keep going. Yeah, all right. What other free response questions do you have? What do you want to know about free response? I think I answered all those questions that were in the chat, I hope. Yeah, I think I got all that. Okay. I got some general strategies. I want to talk about the test day, and then we'll talk about how to study, and then it's over. So I don't know if you realize this, but the College Board approves a specific number of books. I believe right now there are 6 books approved. Most of the country uses Miller. It's a very introductory book. Miller actually came out with a second edition because he sells so many books. There's like Cunningham, and Sago. There's Raven and Berg. There's the one that I always forget. And then there's the really good one, Botkin and Keller. That's the university one that you're using. Every question that is proposed, like Jose says, hey, we should ask a question about demographic transitions. Here's the question. And they have to check through all 6 books to make sure that Miller said demographic transition. The other Miller books has demographic transition. Cunningham, and Sago said, and they have to check all the books. So, a lot of you have learned from outside sources, and that's great. A lot of you have learned other things that Jose says, which are just supposed to be a way to keep the information organized, and that's great. But if you're not really sure, stick to whatever was in the book. Like, as much as possible. Like if there's one thing you recognize and the other one you don't, and you have to guess, just guess the one you recognize. Even if you're not sure it's right, just the fact you recognize it is a good hint. If there's like a term you've never heard of, it might just be a distractor. They make stuff up to sound science-y to trick the really gullible, totally out of it students. So when you're looking at your choices, stick to whatever you've heard before, what you remember. If all else fails and you have to guess, just guess the one that at least looks like you've seen it before. Be really careful. This is not like a Greenpeace interview. Every single exam has something which is not like environmentalist per se, like on the agenda, like don't make it sound green. Like the pesticides, have benefits. Nuclear energy, like zero carbon, is pretty nice. Nuclear energy makes sense. It's available on demand. There are benefits to nuclear energy. There's benefits to gasoline cars. Like every single like agenda item is not necessarily accurate. Like you're not here to fight a culture war. And don't like bash humans. There has never been, ever, in the history of the exam, a single point for like humans are selfish, or humans are greedy, or humans are stupid, or humans are short-sighted, or even humans made a mistake with like channelization. Like, don't bash on people. You're going the wrong way. You've misinterpreted the question. Don't do that. Um, there will always be at least one question with a trick in the units. If you don't find it, you got tricked. So, like, the axis will say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the units will say in thousands of meters. And then the answer will be like 1 meter, 3 meters, 5 meters, 1,000 meters, 3,000 meters. And like, oh man, that seems so different. Like, you gotta catch that the units are in thousands. Be careful. If you don't find the trick question, you got tricked. It's usually embedded next to the units. Instead of people, it'll be just women, or it'll be thousands of people, or it'll be whatever. Also remember that the numbers are calibrated against reality. So like, price of a car has to be a reasonable price of a car, not $3. It was probably 30,000 and you forgot to move the decimals or something. Also, like, a lot of the time students like look at the math question and they just start like, you've seen that meme with like the lady who's all confused and the numbers get more and more complicated behind her. Like, a lot of students get like, what could this possibly be? And they start like inventing theoretical calculus, and like, you're probably doing it wrong. Like, most of the math is like length times width times height or whatever. Like, it's pretty straightforward. Um, if they ask you cost and benefit, it'll probably have another word like social cost, ecological benefit. Uh, Try to circle that. That's a key distinction. A lot of students give an accurate ecological benefit that doesn't get any credit because they were asking about economic ones or something. Um, Sometimes they'll ask you to like give 2 or 3 things. Always put the best one first. Um, Sometimes if you say something wrong, they won't keep reading. It depends on the format of the question and the answer. And if they ask you for like 2 things, try to give 2 things that are pretty different. There was this classic where they said, describe 2 ways that homeowners can save water. And a lot of students said, oh, use an efficient shower head and use an efficient washing machine. That's 2 things, right? But on the key, it said efficient appliances, parentheses, shower head, faucet, washing machine, dishwasher, parentheses, for 1 point. So you gave 2 examples of the same option instead of giving 2 different options. So what would have been better is efficient shower head or something, and taking shorter showers. Behavioral differences, for example. If they're asking for 2 things, try to give 2 different things, not 2 things that might be examples of the same category. And I don't know, I want to start talking about test day, but I didn't know where to put this elsewhere. You got to find some way to like set alarms, plan ahead, and get a good night's sleep. Everybody always tries to cram. If you don't believe me, just Google this really quick. Like, just the next time you're in a toilet between now and Monday afternoon. The science is really, really clear. Studying less to sleep better gives you more outcomes than studying more to sleep less. The biggest ingredient in a successful exam is having slept more than usual. Like, if you wake up and you're well rested, you won. So I would say that if you're Bedtime is usually 11 p.m. You should go to bed at 10 on Monday, 1 hour early. I'm also going to recommend that you wake up earlier than usual on Tuesday. So, like, go to bed an hour early. You're going to wake up 30 minutes early, so at least you'll get 30 minutes more sleep than usual. Sleep early on Monday. I still haven't talked about test day. Anything else you want to ask me about general strategies and stuff? If you describe something correctly but label it with the wrong terminology, do you get penalized? Possibly, yeah. Yeah, because you may have contradicted yourself. If you just label it as a nonsense, made up mistake, like if you call it falafel, they'd be like, well, this person just clearly used the wrong word. But if you label it with a term that is actually inaccurate, you might not get credit for the description. Like if it's inaccurate in the sense that it contradicts you or it applies to something else that's relevant. Um, so it's much better to avoid terminology that you're shaky on and just stick to the descriptions. Um, what's interesting is um, a lot of kids that are trying to sound smart will usually get the worst grade. And a lot of the kids who are kind of like reaching for language proficiency will score better because they're just using basic terminology, so at least they were never wrong. What else? Are they going to tell us times throughout the test, or should you bring a watch? I don't know. You can't have a smart watch. If you bring a watch, I think that there's supposed to be standards. Like it can't be a calculator watch and it can't have noises. So like if it's a digital watch that goes beep beep at the hour, like that's supposed to be disqualifying. Then again, I don't know if anybody's going to catch you on it. If you bring an iWatch, or is that what they're called? The Apple smartwatch? If you bring like a smartwatch, a web connected device, they should be removing those or kicking you out. Um, I guess if you brought like an analog clicky clicky watch, that should be fine. I don't think that they announce the time, but I think they're supposed to have a clock visible, like on a wall somewhere. But like if you're behind the whiteboard and you can't see it, I'm not sure how much they would help you. So yeah, I guess if you can manage an old school non-digital or quiet watch, that would be smart. What else do you want to ask me? Test day. Whatever is your normal Tuesday wake up time, you got to wake up earlier. Um, like if you give yourselves 40 minutes every morning on Tuesday, give yourself 60 minutes. Like if getting to school by 7:30 is going to be brutal for you, don't sleep in. Don't do it. Go to bed earlier, but you need to give yourself a comfortable, easy morning. You should focus on wearing comfortable clothing. Like if you're fighting a wedgie or you're like trying to wear that one really flattering outfit, like I think that that's maybe not the best payoff on exam day. I think if you just go like fully frumpy but comfortable, you'll be better. Like you don't want to be thinking about your clothing on test day. You want to be like cozy, sleepy pajama style. Um, if you drink 2 cups of coffee every day, don't change on Tuesday. Like, this is not the day to fight your addiction on Tuesday. And it's not the day to like experiment with like Adderall swirled into your coffee or whatever. Like, you want to have your normal caffeine that you always have. And honestly, I would suggest like a pretty solid breakfast. Protein is good for a breakfast. If you're a vegetarian, I don't know what that leaves you, but some kind of a solid, like working man's breakfast would be smart. Um, Here's the weirdest hint Jose's ever gonna give you about testing. You thought everything else was weird. You want to be sweating when you sit down. So, like, if you ride skateboards, like, see how many kick flips you can do before you go into the building. Or park at the opposite corner of the parking lot and sprint to the library. Or, like, honestly, like, if mommy drops you off on the sidewalk, then just, like, throw down 2 minutes of jumping jacks and then walk in. You're going to look like a dork unless everybody's doing it. So try to get other people to do this so everybody else will do this, but you want to work up a sweat. All of Miss Khan's students are not going to do this. They're all going to show up and look all mad fabulous, and you guys are going to be there in your frumpy PJs doing jumping jacks with the wrong bra or whatever. But I'm telling you, like, just work up a sweat. Like, who cares how you look? Just try to work up a sweat. Um, there's something about how like getting more oxygen through your circulatory system does something good for your brain. I don't know. Um, so like, yeah, you're wearing comfortable PJs, but try to like not overheat, but get your blood moving. Get your blood moving. Um, if you can skip the rest of your school day, like don't check in with your teachers before. Come tell me after the exam how it went, and then go home. Like, try not to have other things in your day because you don't want to be worried about your transition to that one theater practice or whatever. Like on test day, like you should just do that and that's it. You can see on the screen now. Um, Last names A through P go to the girls' gym, R through Z go to the library, and normally extended time goes to the computer lab in the library. I haven't heard that it's not on my paper this time, um, but normally extended time goes to the computer lab. Somebody asked me, what if you have two tests on the same day? Then I guess you have to do it. Um, I would try to not do anything else. Like, see if you can have somebody bring you food. Like, if you need, you can leave food in my classroom and come to my room to eat and then go to take your other exam. But, like, try to remove all the logistics. If you have another one in the afternoon, then, like, try to either have food right there on the senior lawn or, like, go to your car to eat your food and then go back to the next exam. Like, just cut out transactions as much as possible. Like just test, and I guess if you got another one, then keep going, and then go home. Um, the test starts at 8, whether or not you're in the room. Sometimes they won't let you in if you're late, um, and sometimes they force you to stay after if you're late, but nobody gets extra time. So like if they've started the timer and you walk in 10 minutes later, like you have less time than everybody else. They're not going to wait for you. So they need you to check in for the exam at 7:30. They will start reading at 8. Um, they do start reading at 8, especially for the big exams because they know they're going to lose a bunch of time to the bathroom breaks. So they're going to start at 8. The test usually ends like 11:45 to 12:15. Um, so that's it. From now until Tuesday morning, you should just study your notes. nothing new. You're not trying to learn new stuff. Like, try to remember the stuff from before. Don't add new stuff. Somebody says, what happens if the test you're taking next starts at noon? I imagine that they've factored in the amount of transition time for that. So maybe I'm wrong about 11:45. Maybe it'll be 11:30 or something. I thought that the afternoon tests were at 1, but I don't know anything. If they're at noon, I'm sure that they've thought about it. They need to clear the space and like rearrange all the desks and remove all the paper. So they must have that factored in. I mean, if you start at 8 and it's 160 minutes, you would be done before 11. Add the break, they're still done by 11. Yeah, I'm sure that they've thought about it. So assume I told you the wrong finish time. Um, oh, okay. Somebody asked me what I think is a really great question. When do I think the last time you study should be? Um, I think you should study pretty much right until bedtime on Monday. But mark my words, sleep more than usual. Like if your normal bedtime is 11, you should study until like 9:45. And like brush your teeth and wash your face and stretch and go to bed an hour early. Um, um, I think that it's too late for new material. Like right now, it's Sunday night, no new content. Like it's over. Like what you've learned, it's in. That's it. You're not going to learn anything new. You just want to remember it better now. So now you go through your notes, highlight, underline, call somebody, hey, what's this word? My notes don't make sense. But you want to just like polish and remind yourself of what you've already learned. Don't add anything new right up until bedtime. That morning when you wake up, like, honestly, it's kind of good to give your brain a little break. Um, like the morning when you're getting ready to go take the test, you're gonna see some stress case walking in, like shuffling papers and crying. Like that's not you. Don't do that. Like the night before the exam, Monday night, you want to be studying right until you go to bed. I think should hopefully be the last thing on your mind. If you're used to reading, maybe read or whatever. But um, this should definitely be like the last academic task of your day on Monday. Um, And then on Tuesday, I would not study on the way to the exam. I would strongly discourage studying. I would encourage sweating, like right before you walk in. No study, sweat a little bit. Bunch of idiots doing jumping jacks out front. That's going to be awesome. All the mad kids are going to be like, "Whoa, what's wrong with these people?" And you're going to be like, that's going to be so awesome. God, I hope that happens. All right. Is there anything else that you want to ask me in the chat? I'm going to